Welcome to the Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner, where each month we bring you a new fly pattern to give a try to on our Central Oregon lakes and rivers. In addition to showing you how to tie each pattern, I'll feature fishing technique tips and tricks, and I'll cover some of the entomology behind each pattern to help gain a better understanding of the bugs that we're trying to imitate. I have field tested each of the patterns that I feature each month to make sure that they catch fish. I'll cover tying instructions for the fly as well as materials to help you be able to recreate these patterns on your own vise. Today I'm going to tie a Food Court Midge. This is a pattern I designed not too long ago to try and tackle some of those really tough trout in midge situations on some of our local rivers. I've been hitting a particular area and the fish have been up on midges regularly. And so some of the traditional patterns I tied just weren't working for me. And so I designed the Food Court Midge. This has got some unique characteristics in that it's got a UV trailing shuck to it. It's tied with Polish quill for the abdomen. It's got peacock to represent the larger head, and a deer hair wing and hackle to help float the fly. It's been a really successful pattern for me this fall as we move into midge season. As we tie the fly, I'll introduce each of the materials in greater detail. For a hook, I'm using a Firehole 609, and I'll typically tie this in size 18 or 20. This is a standard length medium wire barbless competition hook. For thread, I'm using a Vivus 14-aught in black. This is a very fine thread to be able to tie on hooks this small. So let's start tying the Food Court Midge. I'm going to tie my thread on right at the 2/3 point of the hook. And I'll follow that up with my first material. I'm using UV Crystal Flash Tan for a trailing shuck on this fly. So I've taken 2 strands of my UV Crystal Flash and I'm going to tie it on right at the 2/3 point and leave it hanging off the tail end of the fly. I'm going to clip it short to about the length of the abdomen of the pattern. For the abdomen, I'm going to use a hand-stripped quill. I get these from Polish quills, and this is a stripped peacock feather in natural. So I'm going to tie in my Polish quill by the tip, and then I'll clip it in my hackle pliers. And then I like to use a bed of super glue underneath this. This material breaks very easily in trout teeth, and so we're going to give it a little added strength with the super glue. And then from here, I'll go ahead and wind it into that bed of glue all the way up through the abdomen to the right up to the back of the thorax. So the next material I'm going to use is some fairly coarse deer hair, and I'm going to take a very sparse bunch and clean out the guard hairs and then tie this on to form the wing. So let me tie in that deer hair clump. You can see I've chosen a fairly sparse amount. And I'll tie that in right at the 2/3 point, and I'm going to wind it up to the head and clip off that excess. That little tuft up at the head acts as a buffer and flattens out that head so that I can tie my hackle and peacock more cleanly and it won't slip on me. So the next material I'm going to tie in is my peacock barb. I'm choosing one from well down on the peacock tail feather to take advantage of the very smallest barbules on this peacock feather. Remember, I'm tying on a size 18 or 20 hook, so I don't want this thorax to be too bulbous. I'm also going to tie in my whiting midge saddle in grizzly. This is an undersize saddle hackle feather that'll tie all the way down to size 18s to 22s on this particular pelt, and it's excellent material for this midge. So let me tie in my peacock barb. And then I'm going to tie in my saddle hackle. So before I wind either of these materials, I'm going to go ahead and coat that head area again with a little bit of super glue. Both these materials can break easily in trout teeth, and so that super glue just helps give it a little more strength and stability so it won't tear apart on your first fish. Once I've done that, I'll go ahead and wind the peacock first all the way up to the head, and then tie that off and clip off the excess. And then I'll wind about 2 wraps of the grizzly hackle across this head area. I usually use about 2 to 3 wraps, very sparse, and tie that off and clip off the excess. If I've got any cleanup to do, this is a good time to do it. And then I'll drop straight into a whip finish and whip finish the fly. I will often do a dual whip finish when I'm working in a small confined area like this. Rather than adding glue to the head, 2 whip finishes are going to make sure that head is permanently sealed and won't fall apart. So the very last step on this pattern is to rotate my vise to where I'm looking at the underside, and then I'm going to clip a V-cut of those hackle fibers off the bottom of the fly. I want this fly to float very, very low in the water, and so I'm going to V-cut those hackles so that it does just that. So now let me rotate my vise so you can see all sides of the Food Court Midge. So that has been your Sunriver Anglers Fly Tying Corner for this month. I hope you'll give the Food Court Midge a try. I know the trout have been stacked up in a couple of areas I'm fishing right to the Midge Food Court in our local spring creeks that I've been routinely using this pattern with excellent success. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this YouTube page and follow Sunriver Anglers on Facebook. Thanks for watching.